got bumped out of Comfort Plus because I missed my flight. Shame on me. I get it. But they rewarded me and upgraded me to first class in one of the flights. But the rest of them, I had to sit in the back with the peasants. Dynamite! Dynamite! Let's go. Yeah, get excited for it, you feel me? Hey, how you guys doing? My name's Hero. This is Coding with Strangers, and this is my review of AfroTech. A few disclosures. I am a 2-time attending AfroTech goer. I went last year and I went this year. I got my medallions, my keepsakes and stuff like that. So I consider myself, I'm not a novice at this. I was a lot more prepared to go this year, but I want to give some caveats before I give my review. First and foremost, I've heard a lot of reviews and complaints that other people have had of AfroTech, and all judgment being withheld to the end, I can hear why some people might view AfroTech as a situation they didn't find to be as promising as they wanted it to be. But if you want the short and sweet of the situation, my review is right up behind me. That's what I thought of AfroTech for this year. But some caveats, shall we say? I think AfroTech was designed for 3 types of people. The novice, the professional, and then the business/person that's going to bless somebody, right? And I'm talking to the first timer, novice, you don't know what AfroTech is, you have no expectations, you just want to be around a lot of black excellence. You've either heard that it's a combination of fashion shows, black culture, music festival, tech, a lot of guest speaking, a lot of opportunities. You heard something of that nature and it piqued an interest in your mind, and you said, I wanted to see that in real time. The professional, these are people who were either brought here by their company or people who are coming here looking for work. These are people that have gone before or have come with a plan or goal in mind. They're probably going to be spending a lot of their time at the corporate events and the expo and less time out and about at the after parties and social events. These are the people that got invited to the private social events. And what I mean by private is there's a host of things you can do after AfroTech is done for the day. There's a bunch of after parties, social mixers that are available and open to the public. But then there are private ones that companies individually host on separate off-site locations that are invite only. Those are the things that you're trying to get yourself into if you found yourself to be someone who was looking for more professional leaning activities to do. A lot less DJing and a lot more social handshaking and stuff of that nature. Then the blessers and the business folks. These were people who were either in charge or had to make sure their budget was being spent accordingly. They're looking for young or new talent to bring into their system. They're the VPs of these companies that are looking for someone or a group of people to bring on the company floor. In both events, both AfroTech, the first AfroTech I went to, which would have been the 4th one, this being the 5th, I ran into 7-figure individuals who were just walking on the expo floor as venture capitalists or people who are looking to invest or tap in and become someone's mentor. And I've managed to stay in contact with these people to uphold those things. But it's very clear that AfroTech is a gold mine for the right person who's being perceptive of the people there in the room. You literally just don't know who you're in the room with. So with that out of the way, a little bit more about myself. Full disclosure, right? My whole entire AfroTech trip was funded by me. I do have an organization called Coding with Strangers. If you buy any merch, we have sponsors who will match 100% of the merch to help get some more kids to go to AfroTech next year. So shout out to those sponsors. Clap it up. Drop a bomb. But for me, full disclosure, for a week-long vacation, I used a lot of points. I'm a frequent traveler, frequent hotel stayer, so I had a lot of points build up. So for me, to stay at the Westin Hotel, I believe I spent upwards of probably $1,500. That was heavily discounted. I think that comes out to like 200 something a night. I got there a night, 2 nights before and left a few days later afterwards. Um, and that's because I actually traveled somewhere else afterwards. My plane flight was extremely cheap. I flew Delta for $350 round trip. Once again, frequent flyer, so I had no problems using my points. Got bumped out of Comfort Plus because I missed my flight. Shame on me. I get it. But they rewarded me and upgraded me to first class in one of the flights. But the rest of them, I had to sit in the back with the peasants. But I didn't get a car. Probably spent upwards of $100 on Ubers. If it was more than 0.4 miles away, I called an Uber. It's just easier, less stress. It was pretty warm out there. Didn't want to bother. For meals and everything, I ate twice a day on average. Usually eating or Uber eating to the room costs $30 times 4. You get $120. Dinner, probably spent upwards of $90. Ate with a group, a few cool people. Here's another great thing. If you get invited to these private events, they provide you with a full dinner. Both times I went to private events, both times their meals were better than the meals I had bought with my own money. So not only was it good food and good exposure, free drink, free alcohol, free this, chef's kiss. So dinner I got off real easy. I spent probably $100 total. The rest I just ate off of AfroTech's budget. Wasn't really big on lunch. And also AfroTech in the convention had a bunch of free food vendors. They had 2 coffee stations. I'll get into all of that later. So AfroTech made sure you stayed hydrated at most, So with all that being said, I probably spent upwards of $3,000. And I cut no leisure, right? Any party I wanted to go to, any event that I wanted to go to, I paid for all of them in full prior to. So like the Jell-O Festival, I paid for the VIP section, and the all you can eat for the Chop Life party, I paid for that. I paid to go see. I didn't pay to go see Rick Ross. We actually finessed our way into that, and we'll talk about that some more. But any event that I wanted to that cost money, I spent $200 on that. So with all that being said, I'll add up the sum total, and whatever that is, it'll sparkle above my head. But I think I spent upwards of $3,000, which for me on my budget, my current salary, that's chicken change compared to what I got. It's a great investment. Last year, I came to AfroTech with the sole purpose of recording every single day. And these videos that I posted raised $8,000 for me in funding. So I'm still living off of the old money from the first time I went. So to say that this AfroTech trip was a financial sink would be a laughable lie for me. But once again, I came here with a purpose. With that being said, that's my disclosure, right? No one at AfroTech has paid me to say this. No one from any company has paid me to say this. Barring whatever opportunity I get with a job with any of the companies I get, I'm speaking this strictly from the heart and from my own recollection. And like I said, my rating is right behind me, and it speaks truth. I think AfroTech was a solid 8 out of 10, and here's why. So let's talk about the good. Austin was definitely more prepared for AfroTech this year. Without a shadow of a doubt, AfroTech this year, there was a presence. Within the 4-block radius of the convention center, there were flags posted all around the streets. There were signs everywhere. AfroTech was mentioned weeks in advance. I checked the local news to make sure that AfroTech was mentioned, ingratiated to help with the flow of traffic. So unlike last year where you had to walk a block to get to the convention center, this year you could be dropped right at the steps of the convention center, which helped for a better flow of traffic, which helped for a better flow of Uber travel and timing. So the city was much more prepared. Also, in addition to that, bars and social clubs and other things stayed open far later downtown on the weekdays to accommodate a lot of the travelers who are coming to have a good time all the time. So it was definitely a much better atmosphere. It felt way more welcoming compared to last year when we would go to events where there would be one place open, but the other surrounding restaurants or establishments were closed. So it led to this bottleneck where everyone was trying to go to one place, but it could have easily been relieved if one or two of those other places stayed open and probably gotten patronized for it, for their effort. Another thing that was really exciting to see was the lack of security with the increase of security. So what do I mean by this? Last year, we had to basically sign up for clear or TSA clearance in order to verify our COVID vaccine shots. This led to a huge bottleneck where every morning you were expected to spend 10 to 15 minutes logging in, getting your information sorted, and then being allowed into the convention. This really dragged the process and made it a chore to go to the expo. And whenever you have to make an expo something that people have to do, or a chore, people aren't going to want to do it. One thing, you could probably see this orange thing here. They put this on people's wrist as a way of helping to identify that you had been to AfroTech at least once. My question is, once again, are you supposed to wear that all 4 days? Furthermore, if I did see you have that on for all 4 days, I can just safely assume you didn't shower, right? That's a safe assumption. There needs to be a better way of doing this. There's no way that this is the only way they're tracking us. Literally, last year, they had a tracker on people, which I know they didn't sign off on people to do this, so that's probably why they took it away this year. But really, they made it way more convenient for people to get in, which would have been a lot easier to finesse because on the backhand side, there's nothing except for this. So if you just had a copy of someone else's version of this and put them on both sides, you could probably get away with not having to pay to enter. And I'm not saying you should do that, but I was much more welcoming to the idea that if you just flash the badge, they let you in. That's how it should have been. That's how it needs to be, and that's how it needs to keep being in the future. The antiquated parts of getting people in was really annoying last year. So this year they cleaned that up, and I really enjoyed it. One thing the expo did that I really enjoyed, because last year it rained on two of the 4 days. They had food indoor. They had vendors that were selling food. Two of the shops were selling coffee for free all day long. These were great things to have on site. So AfroTech made sure that people were like, even if you didn't bring a dime to your name, you could get coffee, slider burgers, and pancakes at one point, and even I think like smoothies at another point throughout the course of the day at multiple vendors who were there to give people jobs. So they kept people fed. There was free water on site. There was bottled water. There was like the little water faucets on site, and this was all housed indoors. I think a big complaint last year for me personally, as a person who likes to stay hydrated, was having to leave the premises to go get water. That was mind-boggling to me, and it happened on too many occasions. So I'm happy to see that they were able to fix that and make sure things were up to par. Another thing that some more things that were really fun and things that I think people took for granted was the expo, but also that there was always something to do. No matter where you were in the day, from the times of 8:30 in the morning all the way till 5:30 in the afternoon, and almost pushing 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, there was something to do on the calendar. And even on the day of the event, they were adding things to the list. I think this goes totally under scope in preparation, right? I think it goes without saying that being able to have such a robust schedule for people to do multiple things at multiple times, I'm a fan of it, and I'm a fan of it for different reasons, but I could definitely hear how some people might find it difficult to split their decision making. But this comes down to really the type of person you are and what category of those three people you fall into. Remember, we have the newbies, the professionals, and the business goers. What category do you find yourself in will kind of dictate what you're able to do, and hopefully their plan is to divide up the crowd based on who they have available. I think all jokes aside and everything being said, I was a person who really found AfroTech to be exactly what it needed to be. I came here looking to get another position, to increase my salary and to get connected with people who would be able to help me do that. And that's what AfroTech was to me. That's what it needed to be for me, and it was everything I asked for. So I'm hard pressed to find things I complain about. But that doesn't mean there wasn't anything I couldn't complain about. So let's talk about the bad. The pricing structure of AfroTech had me really perplexed. I was flabbergasted at one point. Last year, during AfroTech, they increased the price twice, I believe, of the ticket, to the point where the corporate ticket I bought at the early bird sale ended up being the price of the executive ticket when it was all said and done on the day of. And that's inflation if I've ever seen it. This year they increased it one time. I think it was from they probably increased it twice, from $750 all the way up to, at some point it got up to $950. So with that being said, I bought the corporate ticket. If I bought the corporate ticket but didn't have access to go see Rick Ross, what does that corporate ticket do for me? With that being said, is AfroTech doing a disservice by not getting the people who need to be in these conversations and in these halls the most? Students, general admission, well, maybe not general admission, but at least the students, up and coming people. Shouldn't they have a way to get into that? But moreover, if the only thing separating from me from a student or general admission is 10 halls, then I don't need a corporate ticket. And I think that makes sense for me moving forward. I think a bulk of what I'll be doing is staying in the general admissions and only buying that ticket, because both years I made money and made connections on the expo floor. There is no Q&A, there is no meet and greet, there is no in-person social event or private event for corporate users to benefit from getting more of a one-on-one approach with the speakers and designated talkers of that community. There was none of that. So then it begs the question, what's the difference with having this session recorded and just put on a YouTube channel for later? The fact that these things weren't recorded or distributed to the people who paid for them was maddening to me. Pure maddening. It says something when the person who performed at your concert put nothing on their social media. Literally no mention of AfroTech on Sweetie's page, and it probably has something to do with the fact that she was performing to 200 people when she's definitely not that caliber of artist. AfroTech kind of did a disservice to Sweetie and the other performing artists by adding an extra tax, basically, to already expensive venture. Like I said, to me, this was no qualm or query. I was able to get into the concert, but because of the lethargic pricing, I was not in a rush to get there, and I got there in the middle of Rick Ross's session. So when you look at Sweetie's venue for this and you see major gaps in the crowd, you can't really blame her for not being too pleased and not posting about it on her social media. This might be something that I thoroughly enjoyed, but a lot of people seem to be perplexed by it, and I'll talk about it in the truth. But for me, I know a major complaint was there was too much to do with too little time. If you think about the way Austin is set up and how they have their venue set up, they made it almost impossible for you to move from one place to another unless you were willing to leave something early or arrive to something late. With that being said, what is more important to you and what is more valued? I don't think you should have to choose between seeing Issa Rae and seeing Healthcare Summit. I think those two things need to be put on different planes. Or there needs to be, once again, a sort of online feature where people can sort of stream this. I can't really talk about that, but when you know Issa Rae is coming to give a speech and you only get a hundred capacity room, you know everyone at AfroTech wants to see that. It behooves me that last year they gave Mark Cuban a whole entire venue to seat all of AfroTech, and they gave Issa Rae 1/10 of that. Granted, she only spoke for 10 minutes, but huge misfire on this by not having this major event, not have the crowd, having people sitting in the back. Some people came just to see this woman. To not have the ability to see her and knowing that that's one of the reasons we came, kind of sus to me. You definitely need to make sure the crowd and the arena fit the venue situation. I think for sure there needs to be some type of dress code, but also I don't know how do you implement that, but I think AfroTech would benefit from giving people sort of a guidance, sort of guideline. So for example, I noticed a lot of people popped out their best outfit for day one, but as a person who came last year, I understood that day one was just for collecting your badge. So for me, I took advantage of day one and I wore my merch. Once again, you can buy a free shirt. You can buy a shirt and it'll be matched 100%. Help a kid get there next year. But I also used that as a day to get my IDs and all my stuff sorted out, but also used it as a way of interviewing people. So when I interviewed people, I had my merch on. It was perfect. I could do two things at one time, right? Day two was the first day of the expo. So I wore a 3-piece suit. My goal was to meet with all the heavy hitters that I wanted to interview with and try and lock down interviews, which I was successful in doing. So the suit paid off. Day 3 would have been the day I wore the black Akbada. And I think because it's called AfroTech, there should be some form of traditional garbs. If you have it, wear it. And the amount of people that told me, wow, I wish I did it. And I had to say it. If not now, when? When would be the appropriate time to wear this? We need to normalize our culture in the tech industry. So like I was really happy that if I can motivate people to do it next year I'll come with an even better outfit. So I hope to continue to encourage. And day 4 once again was Saturday, where I dressed down and I planned on interviewing companies. So I once again wore my merch to kind of boost and bolster sales in that. But AfroTech should have some type of standards, and the amount of people I saw wearing sweatpants or women wearing leggings was just a little bit off. You're standing next to a future employer, maybe, and you're wearing, in this situation, you either, die young and you never grow up, or you grow up and you eventually become the guy that's standing on the lawn yelling at clouds. And I think maybe this is me yelling at the clouds right now, but there was something about, all the after party mixers, things that were supposed to be social hours or mixers. Every mixer and social hour did not need a DJ. Didn't need a DJ with a full sound system in a 400 by 400 room. There were too many times where I was literally pressed up against people trying to talk to them, and we couldn't hear each other because the DJ is playing "Make Me Sweat, Make Me Hot." Like, that was the theme song of AfroTech. Like, it was just too much. It was too loud. These mixers should be unwinding situations where you get to actually have conversations above table without all the glitz and glams of AfroTech. It's too much. And once again, in the events where I got privately invited, I felt that much more easygoing presence, and it was a lot easier to communicate people. So it leads me to believe that those mixers were probably designed for people who wanted to kick back a little bit more. But I would have been in 2 of the events where I expected there to be conversations, and this happened to me last year, and I went back to these events this year. Last year, I went to the spades tournament to learn how to play spades. I got there, it was a full party, and 3 people were playing spades in the middle of the party. And I couldn't learn anything. It was not conclusive to me learning. Nothing happened. Went to the same one this year. They had they had the early tournament, but halfway through it turned into a party again. So for me, once again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's a constantly evolving thing. And another thing, RSV be damned, but because of the RSVPing of all of these events, some of these events got oversold and underperformed. There has to be a better way of doing this. There has to be a better way of tracking the logistics of this. Furthermore, I will say, like, good on them, because they didn't use that as an opportunity to once again tax us. I think that was a huge complaint last year, that events that were planned or events that were RSVP and didn't have a price tag attached to it, having a price tag once you arrived was a major turnoff, and people definitely felt some type of way about that. So I'm happy to see that was regressed, but maybe need to be a little bit more free with that. But definitely, like, if it's a social mixer, it just needs to be quieter. Damn you, clouds. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old. Why is the app still trash? Let's talk about it. 2 years now, app's been dog water both times. And as someone who doesn't do app design, I am committing right now that I could make a better app than anybody. Well, not anybody, but a better app than it was or is currently. I can make a better one for you. Blavity, reach out to me. I will gladly learn how to web dev app design in 6 weeks and get you a prototype within the next 6 months to then push for you guys to start implementing and integrating with your APIs. Like, there's no way that the app doesn't give us the ability to, 1, track to our calendars, 2, have ongoing direct conversations with people, 3, doesn't have a search feature for people who are in the app. This is the one thing that is crazy to me, is that I can't search people who are on the app. 4, there's no way that we're not using the app as the badge. Why isn't that our way in and out of events? Why do we still need paper when we have the app? Which also led me to believe, why aren't there more charging stations? There were we're at a tech convention, no place to charge your phones or equipment. There need to be charging stations at these places. Like, full on, straight up, 6-foot long cords where we can all charge our phones. 20 people can charge their phones at one time. Charging booths need to be a thing at tech conventions. But yeah, back to the app. The app is trash. It's dog water. It crashed multiple times. It was inaccurate. It wasn't updated appropriately. I don't ever recall giving it permission to send me notifications. It was able to bypass all of those things in the App Store. Feel like that's a flaw that it might need to have adjusted, Apple. Furthermore, there are too many people in the industry who've done their apps better. And this is something that bothered me about a lot of the booths. Last year, there were a lot more in-person conversations and a lot more collaboration to learn about me. Nobody took a vested interest in me unless they were interested in hiring me. For the most part, they made you scan a QR code and then they filter you to their recruiting center. So the amount of times people said to me booths said to me that they didn't know what jobs were available or they didn't have jobs available, but scan this QR code and it'll show you everything, shows a lack of preparedness on the business side. And also from a Blavity standpoint, are you vetting these people? Are you vetting these companies to make sure that they're actually not shortchanging the people who came here looking for employment? This was a convention that most people got hired for. So to have a situation where these companies aren't prepared to hire, it seems like you're not dealing in good faith, especially if you don't know that. And if you don't know that, why? And if you did know that, you didn't feel the need to share that. Definitely next year, there needs to be some type of chart or way of telling us about the people who are genuinely here to hire and who are here to look for interns, right? There needs to be a clear distinction, whether it's the sizing of their booth. I think Apple and Tesla got a lot of attention and maybe they didn't deserve it. And then I think another thing that was a major question is, where were some of the heavy hitters? eBay, Microsoft, Nike, AWS, Amazon. these were all companies that were here last year but weren't here this year. That's just a lingering question for me, right? Lingering questions. But with every lingering question, it leads to an absolute. We have the good, we have the bad, so let's tell the truth. The truth is you weren't prepared for AfroTech. If you found yourself being cheated or felt cheated, that AfroTech didn't live up to what you wanted it to be, I'm sorry to tell you probably weren't as prepared as you should have been. As a person who's gone for the second time now, I was way more prepared for the things I wanted to do. I'm probably here to say if you didn't have a detailed list of everything you wanted to do, or you didn't have the time slots and everything you registered for, and you didn't RSVP for them a week after they came out, you probably weren't prepared for it. If you went to events thinking showing up on time was an appropriate thing to do, you didn't go to the ones last year, and you didn't learn that you should probably show up 15 to 25 minutes earlier to make sure that you get a spot. These are all hard truths that I found out last year. So when I hear people complaining about them this year, especially if I heard that they had been here before, it leads me to believe that you probably didn't learn your lesson last year, and you probably suffered consequences for it. But your lack of preparation is not a downplay of the situation. It wouldn't be fair for me to say that even with all the preparation in the world, people who did show up and pay to do something should have gotten the things they showed up for and paid for. We need to talk a little bit about how 1/3 of the booths I visited, and I missed 10 of them, I believe. But of the 1/3 that I visited, they openly weren't hiring. Q4 in our economy is currently in a very low place right now. So to see so many companies just openly saying they're not hiring, Discover being one of them, they just playing out like their booth is just there. It sends a bad taste in my mouth, because this is supposed to be helping our generation of kids and people get into high-end positions and spaces, and they're literally saying they don't have them available, which begs the question, when and where will they be available? And if they're not available now, how and when are we going to get that? This was our opportunity to get the inside ear of these companies. There's no way these companies should be given our time and money if they're not preparing space and opportunity for us. We need to question some of the people that were invited to speak at our convention. If you invited people who could be attributed to being like multi-level business plans, or Silicon Valley giving strategy advice on investment when they are in the bucket for multiple Bitcoin and NFT rug pulls, not to mention fitting the bill for at least half of what Elon Musk owes for buying Twitter as a joke. Forced to buy as a joke. Do these people really need to be giving us advice on certain things? It really begs the question about, like, how are we vetting these companies to speak on them? And are we allowing them to speak without answering for their transgressions of the past and how they've affected the economy? Because these were companies and banks who were seeking bailouts. And those bailouts came from tax-paid funded things, right? So it's a question. We already talked about Sweetie, but let's talk about Rick Ross' performance. I'm pretty sure the hype would have been more. This is one of the situations where the hype would have been better than the current situation. It would have been way better to have Rick Ross, literally Rick Ross, have a line going around the corner, around the block. The stadium's packed to capacity, and Rick Ross is 10 minutes from coming out. But in reality, the situation is I showed up 10 minutes late for his set, and I walked straight up, and literally I was 30 feet away from Rick Ross. I could be 30 feet away from Rick Ross. There were so few people. You'll see the space here that I'll show in the pictures, but it was kind of embarrassing, especially when Wale's concert went so hard, and it was a lot easier and less problematic because they just let people in. The simple fact that they let Rick Ross take this L is going to make it 10 times harder for them to get anyone bigger or of equal caliber, because AfroTech doesn't know how to generate or garner a crowd. There's no way in hell that the Zillow concert that I went to, Kickback, was more live than the main event, right? Once again, I said it already. Sweetie didn't post anything about this on her timeline. So, speaks for it, right? And also, the swag was lacking. This year, the swag was lacking. This video I'm about to do at some point, I'm going to do an unboxing of all of the swag I got. This was the best thing I got from last year's event. The Stripes Power Pack. Still using it. I charged this last week, Monday. How many battery points? 3. I've been using this for a week and a half on and off. And it charged my phone full 3 times, and I've only used one of the cells. It's the greatest, like, it was an amazing catch. But this year, couldn't find anything. Not even anything memorable. And at one point, there was swag that was being reused. I'll show it when I see it, but the umbrella that I got was literally the same umbrella from last year that I got. Great find. All I did was, now I have 2 of them. It was like, for all the companies that came, they came with the same idea, giving us bags. Some of them came with t-shirt, but I came up with a cool AfroTech design t-shirt. Why aren't these companies doing the same thing? It's mind-boggling. Like, memorabilia is such a swagged out thing. Just put your company next to AfroTech and boom, you got the ultimate gift. It was just trash. The swag was just trash. Another thing is, do we get our money back if 60% of what you wanted to see wasn't available to you? Like I said, AfroTech had a really difficult time being everything for everyone. At one point, there was a full-on basketball tournament that took place, and some people don't even know that a basketball tournament took place. Movies were going on. Talent shows were going on. All of these different things were happening. Maxine Water was supposed to speak. She didn't show up. But at what point do you quantify the cost of AfroTech, right? If you came here to see Issa Rae, a bunch of the Women's Summit related things, Maxine Waters, and none of those things took place, none of those things happened. Like, what's the justification for it? There needs to be better accountability in this department, heavily so. Or what they'll see is next year a lot more general admission tickets, which will downgrade the amount of people we're able to bring here. AfroTech has the exclusivity of AfroTech is paramount. There needs to be this allure or awe that makes people want to pay to play. And if they can't provide that, then people are going to come and do their business and leave. And when you're doing business, you're trying to save money. Another thing that we just got to see, and something that truthfully, I've said this last year and I'll say it again, AWS, any cloud infrastructure course, they usually last about 6 hours. You can get certified in 6 hours for AWS Architect program. 3 hours, 8 from 8 to whatever, 8 to like 10, 8 to like 12 or something like that with breaks and everything. 2 days. And basically give AWS the ability to say the most people getting certified in one spot at one time. There needs to be a more energy and emphasis put into getting people certified so that the positions they're applying for, they match for. I love seeing them do the pictures for the profiles. I think that was great last year. It was great this year. Having the coffee booths, all those things. They were way more conscious of what people said last year. So I hope they listen this year. I just hope that AfroTech doesn't get the wrong message from people complaining. I hope they understand that the people complaining weren't prepared to come to AfroTech this year. I hope they understand that AfroTech is responsible for being everything, the everything convention, a sports convention, a financial, a programming, a health, a wealth, everything, influencer, everything. They are in charge of it. And as big as a burden that is, I think they've carried it well. Next year is going to be in Houston. I personally hate Houston. One, not only because Houston's traffic is atrocious, two, it is one of the more spaced out downtowns, and their downtown isn't as how je ne sais quoi upbeat as it was. Now, granted, it's been at least 5 years since I've been there, so maybe things have changed, but I think AfroTech would probably benefit from. Where would you want to see AfroTech next? Because if you go to Houston, the logical leap is then to go to Louisiana, which I don't know how I feel about that at all. Ultimately, once again, I might seem kind of harsh, but that's just because I really, I love you guys. So I want to make you guys know everything that I felt. But at the end of the day, if I had to do it again, I'd do it again. Simple as that. AfroTech is too valuable to me for me to be begrudging by one-off stances about not being able to get in to see Issa Rae. AfroTech is bigger than Issa Rae. AfroTech is bigger than the parties and the meet and greets. But if that is all AfroTech is to you, that's fine. I think that's beautiful. I think that's great. There were so many people I ran into from last year that saw me this year, and I was happy to see that their company could sponsor them to come here, or that they're doing better than they were before. These are all things that I celebrated, and these are all things that made me feel better. The short and sweet of it, even if though AfroTech is going to be in a city I don't like, I'm going to be there to do the same thing I did this year. Figure out a way to upgrade myself and push my product out there. Ultimately, I hope if you are trying to decide if you go to AfroTech, you really should just ask yourself these 3 questions. Why are you going? Is what you're going for actually at AfroTech? And how are you going to maximize your time there to make sure it was worth it all? All those things need to be questions you need to have answered. And to give you an example, why did I go to AfroTech? Because I wanted to level up. Was the potential for me to level up possible here? Yes. Did I make the time to be able to level up? Yes. So for me, it's quite simple. I'll be back next year. I'll try and get these videos out in a reasonable time. I had a vacation from AfroTech after AfroTech. So you already know how that went. But I appreciate you guys. I love your faces. Take care of yourself. Once again, if you want to crop a shirt, any shirt you buy, to the end of the year, we matched 100%. I appreciate everyone that already bought a shirt. I'll snap and all the names will appear here. Thank you so much. I love your faces. Here's AfroTech 2023. Or maybe I should say AfroTech 2024. It was a vibe.